Well, the government is at loggerheads with iwi forestry owners over its climate change plans. Climate Change Minister James Shaw wants to exclude exotic trees like pine from the emissions trading scheme. Some estimates say that could cost iwi billions of dollars. Now, Māori forestry leaders have established a working group to relay directly to government how to tackle climate change without disproportionately penalising Māori. I spoke with Te Taumata Chair Chris Karamia-Inslee about what's at stake.
If they continue doing that, we've had independent economic analysis say the cost to Māori from using those fast-growing trees on our marginal Māori land, where there are really no other options for the use of that land, would be anywhere, and some say that this number is conservative, $16 billion to Māori, to regional economies and to the national economy. So that's the fundamental issue, that government was set to introduce law ruling out that option. The cost to Māori in New Zealand is massive.
Because, I mean, obviously one of the things, I guess, that I've sort of read about is the fact that a lot of the whenua that has been handed back, for example, in treaty settlements, isn't suitable to grow natives on, right? Because it's inaccessible land, it's land that, you know, high wind zones and stuff like that, right? So it's not like you can put natives on some of this whenua and then get carbon credits for that.
Yeah, well, this is kind of where you start to delve down into the detail, the technical detail. So the government proposition was that, no, we want to see a lot more indigenous forest growing on our land. And that was at the expense of ruling out the using fast-growing exotics. So this is where the issue arose. First point to make clear, as Māori, we are absolutely committed to indigenous trees growing on our forest. There's no question about that. There are a lot of environmental reasons why we're committed to doing that. There are cultural reasons, like growing things like tōtara on our lands that can be used for carving for our maraes. There is no question that we're absolutely committed to indigenous forests. But the original government proposal was to rule out planting fast-growing exotics. Now, what that meant was the economic activity that's generated by planting fast-growing exotics, because those trees grow basically twice as fast, or the inverse of that is that the indigenous take much, much longer to grow. So therefore, there's the cost to Māori. And really our argument is saying, no, you cannot rule out one option. The only people that can decide what we're going to do on our land is our landowners. It's not for government to legislate those rights away. So hopefully that tries to clarify the point. Māori are absolutely committed to indigenous forests on our land.
How do you tackle it? Like, does if the government doesn't want the exotics, do they just pay out and say, well, this is what we would have given you if you'd grown the exotics? Or how do you want to deal with this sort of point of contention now?
Yeah, and there is a way. So in about midway through this year, April, May, the late Sir Toby Curtis wrote on behalf of Māori landowners to the government and said, hang on, we need to talk. We all would like to sit around a table and talk. So we did that. We did that in June of this year. So we brought to the table in Wellington, in Parliament, the leaders of Māori forestry from across the country. So all the way from Northland, in Ngāpuhi, Taitokerau, down through the Central North Island, Mātātua, Te Arawa, Ngāti Tūwhare Toa, over on the east coast of Whanau Apanui, Te Tairāwhiti Ngāti Pro we brought, and into the South Island, in fact, at Waka too. We brought all of those leaders to the table and we met with 7 ministers, led by Minister Stuart Nash and the Minister of Climate Change, James Shaw. Now, it was through that discussion, we actually got to a point in that discussion that we mutually agreed there was a practical way forward. And that was, how do we figure out, how do we plant the fast-growing exotics as an initial nursery crop, and then through time, which might be over the next sort of 50 to 100 years, how do we allow those forests to naturally transition to indigenous forests? And look, we came away from that meeting feeling pretty encouraged that the ministers bought into that, as did we. What we agreed to do in that meeting was to put a technical working group together with government officials and with our own technical Māori officials to actually work on the analysis and bring in all of the science from the likes of Forest Research, Scion and Rotorua.
Chris Karamia Inslee, thank you so much for your time, Hua, and I'm so sorry for wrapping you so early, but we really appreciate it.
No, kei te pai.